Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to ThinkView, and this is NK. When you're buying laptop, especially for gaming laptop, it's a common sense to think that if you got high spec in hardware, meaning that you will get high performance, isn't it? But sometimes things just doesn't work that way. Here I have two laptops, the HP Omen 16 and the Lenovo Legion 5. They have the same CPU, the same GPU, and the same amount of RAM, but in some gaming and working, the result may vary quite a lot. And in today's videos, I will explaining exactly why. Now, before we getting into it, just a quick disclaimer. This is not a full-fledged review of these two laptops because the exact configuration might not be available globally. And more importantly, they are not the latest and greatest laptop right now. Instead, we're using these two machines as a reference point to demonstrate a much bigger idea when it comes to choosing a laptop. On paper, these two are basically identical. They both come with the same Intel Core i7-14650HX, the same RTX 5060 running at the similar wattage at around 150 watt, the same amount of RAM, and even similar pricing. And if you're only looking at the hardware, you might expect that they perform exactly the same. But once you actually using them, whether it's gaming or doing real work like editing or rendering, the results are surprisingly different. The reason comes down to how each laptop brand choose to tune their own devices. For Lenovo, they choose to push every bit of performance out of this laptop. It's allowed the CPU and the GPU to draw more power, sometimes even pushing the CPU up to around 125 watts. And that's the result in higher benchmark score and higher FPS in demanding titles. In titles like Cyberpunk 2077, where both CPU and GPU are heavily utilized, the Legion can be noticeably faster, sometimes by a pretty significant margin. However, these kind of results only showed up in very extreme scenarios. In some more common and daily tasks like Premiere, Blender, or even typical games, which in this case is Black Myth Wukong, the gap between the performance of these two machines becomes much smaller, sometimes almost negligible. On the other hand, the HP Omen 16 chose a very different approach. Instead of trying to extract every bit of performance out of the laptop, they choose to manage the power more carefully. It doesn't try to push the CPU as hard in combined workload, which means that the overall performance might be slightly lower in peak situation. But in return, the machine runs quieter, more stable, and generally feels more comfortable to use over a long period of time. The fans are also less aggressive, which make the noise more manageable, and the whole experience feels more balanced. While the Legion 5 can get really loud when you try to push it in full performance mode, the HP Omen stay at a level that I can say is much easier to live with in day-to-day basis. And this kind of differences in design philosophies also affect other aspects too, like battery life. The Legion 5, with its more aggressive power behavior and smaller battery, only lasts nearly 2 hours in light office usage, which honestly is quite limited. Meanwhile, the HP Omen 16 can last up to 3 hours under the same condition thanks to its bigger battery and also a better power control. It's still not amazing by an ultrabook standard, but for a gaming laptop, it's noticeably usable. When it comes to display and design, both are actually identical. But when you look close enough, you will still spot some differences. Both are using a 2.5K panel with high refresh rate. But the HP Omen can go up to 240Hz, while the Legion 5 usually sit at around 165 to 180Hz depending on the version. In terms of color coverage, both are covering 100% sRGB with similar P3 coverage and a very low delta E. So for content creation or general use, they are basically on the same level. The only noticeable difference is brightness, where the Omen is slightly brighter by around 50 nits, which does help a bit if you use a laptop in brighter environment. But both of these laptops are still very easy to use under the outdoor environment because both of them can reach over 400 nits of brightness. In terms of form factor, the Omen gives you a larger 16-inch display, so you will get more screen real estate for gaming or editing, while the Legion is slightly more compact and easier to carry around. But when it comes to input experience, the Legion is definitely have more advantage here. The keyboard on the Lenovo laptop has deeper key travel, larger keycap, and especially the arrow key are much easier to use. It's just more comfortable for both typing and gaming, and that's something Lenovo has always been very good at. Port layout is another area that distinguishes the two laptops. The HP Omen places most of the important ports like the HDMI, the LAN, and the power at the back of the device, which makes the cable management much cleaner when you're using the full setup with mouse, keyboard, and external display. On the Legion 5, ports are more spread out, especially with the USB-A on the right side, which sometimes can get in the way if you're using with a mouse. So in the end, choosing between these two machines really comes to what you care most about the laptop. If you want maximum performance, higher FPS in demanding title, and you don't mind dealing with more noise and higher power draw, then the Legion 5 is a clearly more aggressive machine here. But if you care more about overall usability, something that is still very powerful but runs quieter, has better battery behavior, and is easier to live with every day, then the HP Omen 16 is a more well-rounded option. And that brings us back to the main point of today's videos. Same hardware doesn't always mean same performance. Even when the CPU and the GPU are identical, the way that the system is tuned, how much power is allowed, how the cooling system is designed, and how the machine balance performance and noise can completely change the real-world experience. So next time when you're choosing a laptop, don't just look at the hardware, because in reality, that's just half of the story. But what is your preference of choosing the laptop? Will you go with the performance or the overall usage? Let me know in the comment section down below, okay? Now, thanks for watching. This is NK from ThinkView, and see you guys next time.